All right, so we're back into our iQuit session, and we're on session number 6 of our series where we're learning 8 things we need to quit in order to grow emotionally and spiritually mature. So, the first thing you needed to quit was, can you remember? Yes, being afraid of what others think. And the second thing we need to quit was, can you remember? Yeah, you need to quit lying. This is about speaking the truth and speaking it in love, because almost all of us are in the business of managing other people's perceptions of us. So we won't speak the truth in love to a particular person because we're concerned about how they will perceive us. But if we want to grow as men and women, as people of faith, then we need to cut out the lying pandemic. Strangely enough, most people only have the courage to lie when they get extremely ticked off at somebody, yeah? So only time we start telling the truth. All right, the third thing we need to quit, can you remember? Quit dying. Stop dying. Aaron says stop dying. All right, quit dying to the wrong things. So you got to quit quitting the things that are good for you. For example, exercise. You should not quit exercising. All right. Socializing. You should not quit socializing. Even within 1 foot of the other person, you can still socialize. Don't quit being out in nature. Don't quit prayer. Don't quit church. Don't quit cell. Don't quit singing. And don't quit breathing. Maybe like singing. And don't quit dancing. Even if it's just at a wedding until 12 a.m. Monday night. All right. What's the fourth thing? Quit denying anger, sadness, and fear. The most unhealthy thing we can do is suppress, deny, ignore our anger, sadness, and fear. Many Christians misapply Bible verses about anger, sadness, and fear, leading many to think these emotions are sinful and should be avoided. Even God gets angry, especially with a sinner like me. So instead we should be doing as Jesus did when it came to anger, sadness, and fear. Feel the feelings, think through the feelings, and take the appropriate action, even if it means doing as Jesus did and grabbing a table and throwing it across the church. All right. So what was the one after that? The one after that was Clark. Yes, quit blaming. The thing is, when we express our anger, sadness, or fear, not only do we express it, sometimes we can project it and blame others for how we are feeling. So Clark's session, he was challenging us to take responsibility for our own lives, take responsibility for our stuff, and stop blaming other people. All right. Turn to your neighbor and say, I'm not a blamer. Definitely. It's great to see there's some self-confession in the room. All right, yeah. I have to admit, I agree with Aaron. I am a blamer myself. All right, today we're going to talk about quitting overfunctioning. Say that 10 times real fast with your hands behind your back. All right. So what is overfunctioning? I'm hoping the picture tells you what overfunctioning is. All right, so overfunctioning is when we do for others what they can and should do for themselves. Overfunctioners prevent people, including themselves. Did you catch that bit? Overfunctioners prevent people, including themselves, from growing up. Bruh, grow up, man. Like, seriously. There's nothing wrong with this picture, except he should be putting the remote control down and say, honey, can I help you? What can I do to help? Here, let me do the vacuuming. Right? And all the ladies say, amen. All the men are like, shut up. All right. Also, when it comes to overfunctioning, wherever you find an overfunctioner, you will find an underfunctioner. So if an overfunctioner is someone who does for others what they can and should do for themselves, what do you think an underfunctioner is? Yeah. One who takes advantage of the overfunctioner. Yeah. All right. The thing is, overfunctioning is dangerously imperils friendships, marriages, churches, workplace, and families. So here's my question for you. Are you an overfunctioner? Yeah. So when it comes to me in my marriage, but especially in the very early days of my marriage, I was what you call an underfunctioner. So Charlotte had Shekinah and Nathaniel, and they were like 1 or 2 years of age. So she was stuck at home. I was in the corporate world, and I would work very late hours, and I'd get up and get to be work by 7 o'clock, be home around 7 o'clock at night. And when I came home from work, I expected when I walked through the door that the house would be clean, and there'll be food on the table. The kids would already be showered and ready for bed, and they would be having dinner together. My excuse was that I was working and she wasn't working. Huh? Right? Which is a valid excuse, right? And all the men go, yeah. The real excuse is I couldn't be bothered doing anything and I don't know how to cook anyway. All I know how to cook is fry an egg. It's about as good as and toast. So I've had this attitude that she's at home, so she should cook and do all of that. I'm at work. That's been my attitude most of my life. Of course, this meant that in the area of our marriage where I was under-functioning, guess who was over-functioning in our marriage in that area? Yeah, you know. So can you imagine my attitude when Charlotte comes to me a few years ago and she says to me, I want to play volleyball. Charlotte hadn't played volleyball for over 20 years. In fact, when she met me, after a period of time, she stopped playing volleyball. She stopped doing any sport. Oh, why, eh? So when she says this, I say to her, why are you wasting our money? I mean, you don't even work. In fact, if you want to play volleyball, here's our agreement, right? Here's our agreement. You want to play volleyball? You pay for the volleyball that you're playing. Oh, you don't have money? Well, then go get a job. When you get a job, then you can play volleyball. I literally said this to her a few years ago when she first asked. Now, he's the one that claimed I'm the man. I never made the claim, all right? I am the man, but right, that's beside the point. So, after I said this to her, she made very clear to me that she was going to play volleyball whether I liked it or not. Now, the thing for me was, I wanted her to stay at home. She's a stay-at-home mum, so she should stay at home and be a mum, right? That's what's going on in my head. And I didn't want to make adjustments for her volleyball because it meant more time for me doing work, right? Because now I'd have to babysit and childmind and do cooking and get the kids ready for bed. All that stuff to me sounds like too hard work. That's selfish thinking. Right. Man, from the very beginning, I spoke about controversy. The controversy hasn't stopped. We've moved away from mask and we're still in controversy. All right, so my question for you is this. Are you an overfunctioner? Overfunctioning is more than just having this habit of doing for others what they can do for themselves. Overfunctioning is basically a weed whose deep roots go and get traced all the way back to your family of origin. If you're an overfunctioner, you will find people in your family of origin who were overfunctioners. You'll also find people in your family of origin who are underfunctioners. My underfunctioning in my marriage was born out of watching how my parents interacted. Very rarely did my dad do chores in the home. Very rarely did my dad cook in our home. In fact, when our dad comes to visit us now, right, he lives on his own in Canberra. Hi, Dad. He lives on his own in Canberra. When he came up to stay with us for a couple of weeks, my dad, kid you not, spent most of the time sitting at the dining room table saying this: Micah, can you get Micah? Can you get Micah? Can you bring me Micah? Can you get Micah? I feel, can you bring me Jazzy? Oh, whoa, he changed the Jazzy. I don't believe it. Wow. So I hear my kids up and down the stairs, right, doing this. That's what I learned growing up. That's what I learned. Because I watched my dad be an underfunctioner in that space. Now, he could justify it because he worked 2 to 3 jobs growing up. But when it came to doing housework and stuff like that and cooking, my dad, the only time I remember my dad cooking is on a Saturday night when he'd make pancakes for us and he'd flip them in the air, and we had so much fun watching him. Mum's cooking was boring. Dad's cooking was amazing because it was really entertaining. But that's all he cooked was pancakes. Once in a while on a Saturday night because he was hungry. Christmas Day. All right. And the thing is about all of this is that these thorny branches that come into your family of origin, they spread out and branch out and weed out into other areas of our lives, whether it be in the work, parenting, marriage, church, or friendships. And even when it comes to church, for me, at this church, I'm an over-functioner when it comes to Excel. Because I'm a perfectionist, so I'm like, I'm just going to do it because it'll get done, and it'll get done the way I want it done. Until my wife says to me, you need to stop doing that. You need to cut that out. So help me, Jesus, with that, huh? All right. So here's the thing with, delegate. Yeah, that's right. That's why you're doing more preaching now, huh? All right. So, overfunctioning. Continuum overfunctioning. Overfunctioning sits on a continuum more than it's about whether you are an overfunctioner or you're not an overfunctioner. It sits on a continuum, yeah? All right, so here's what I want to do. So to figure out whether you're an overfunctioner or not, I want you to tick the boxes of each of those statements that apply to you or describe you. And then share with your neighbor how many you ticked and why you ticked those boxes, okay? So, all right, so very quickly, no, I want to give you 2 minutes. I'm not going to make this quick. Over 2 minutes, tick the boxes, read them, tick the boxes, and then share with your neighbor how many you ticked and why you ticked those boxes. Okay, let's get back into it. Thank you for doing that exercise and sharing with your neighbor. So, let me give you some scores. Here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is, if you scored 3, then you may be an overfunction, which means if you scored 2 or 1, you are not an overfunctioner. That could be an underfunctioner. You are. Or you are quite balanced. Neither under nor over. All right? If you scored between 4 and 7, you have a mild case of overfunctioning. If you scored 8 or more, you are in trouble. All right. There you go. All right. There are some deadly consequences to overfunctioning, and we'll talk about 5 of them today. This stuff can have serious effects on your relationship, especially for both the overfunctioner and the underfunctioner. So let me walk you through those deadly consequences. The first deadly consequence is that overfunctioning breeds resentment. How does overfunctioning breed resentment? Yeah, you're getting angry at the underfunctioner. Yeah? Because they're not pulling their weight. Yeah. Oh. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. So now remember, it's not saying here that overfunctioner is going to start complaining. It says the overfunctioner is going to be resentful. And a lot of times resentment shows up not necessarily in complaining, but in things like sarcasm. Oh, you decided to come home, did you? Oh, okay. Wow. Oh, do you know how to wash dishes? Do you know how to do that? Oh. Do you know how to spell vacuum? Do you know what it looks like? Oh. Oh, but this favorite one, do my eyes deceive me when Lewis or Joseph are vacuuming the hall? All right. That's resentment. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Overfunctioning can be disguised as caring for the needs of others. It's where we confuse caring for someone with taking care of someone. You catch the difference? It's subtle, but just because I care for you doesn't mean I'm responsible for everything about you. And the ladies are nodding their heads. Man, I'm just getting the men into trouble here. All right, so that's the first one. Overfunctioning breeds resentment. Secondly, overfunctioning perpetuates immaturity. Question, how... That was me when I was young, bro. All right, how does overfunctioning perpetuate immaturity? Yeah, the other person's not growing, right? There's no growth in that person. In fact, the more we overfunction, the more others are demotivated to make change in their lives. And change is what brings growth. No change, no growth. We overfunctioners believe this lie. You are the only thing holding everything together. If you stop, things will fall apart. That's what the overfunctioner is thinking in their heads. Would you like a mic? What's going on? I think he needs healing. I think there's healing he needs in his life. Something's going on. All right. If an underfunctioner is going to take responsibility, we who overfunction must cease, must cease from saving, fixing, or advising. By the way, if you like giving advice without being asked to give advice, you are more than likely an overfunctioner. Hi, Mum. That's you. My mum. Son, I just want to give you advice. Did I ask you for the advice? No, I did not ask you for the advice. I'm like 40-something years old woman. All right. Okay, so the first one was overfunctioning breeds resentment. Secondly, overfunctioning perpetuates immaturity. Third, overfunctioning prevents you focusing on your calling. How does overfunctioning do that? Yeah. You're more concerned about everybody else's calling and purpose in life and forgetting about your own. Huh? When you overfunction, you tend to forget or neglect your own values, your own goals, your own dreams, etc., etc. And I'm not saying that you throw all that stuff out or you embrace that to the detriment of everybody else. But what I'm saying is it's about bringing that healthy balance into the relationship. All right. Number 4, overfunctioning erodes your spirituality. How does it do that, family? How would overfunctioning erode your spirituality? Yep, 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 good thought. The thing with an overfunctioner is an overfunctioner likes to take charge. They want to be in control of everything. Essentially, an overfunctioner takes on the role of God. It's okay, God, I've got this. I'm in control. I'll take charge. You look after the rest of the world. Don't worry about me and my peeps because I'm in control. When you're in that space, you are playing God. You have pushed God out of the picture and you're now playing the role of God in your life. You know you're also overfunctioning when you don't even make time to be with God. All right, here's the last one. So the first one was overfunctioning breeds resentment. Secondly, overfunctioning perpetuates immaturity. Now, I'm repeating this because it's important for what happens next. Overfunctioning prevents focusing on your calling. Overfunctioning erodes your spirituality. And finally, overfunctioning destroys community. How do you think overfunctioning destroys community? Yeah. Because basically what happens is an overfunctioner actually believes that they know what is best for everyone else. And so they are dictating to everybody else how they should live their lives. And in the process, it destroys community because no one feels that they have the safety or the permission to speak out against what the overfunctioner is, or how the overfunctioner is behaving. Yeah, make sense? All right. So let me go back and remind you. Overfunctioning breeds resentment. Overfunctioning perpetuates immaturity. Overfunctioning prevents focusing on your calling. Overfunctioning erodes your spirituality. Overfunctioning destroys community. So I want to invite you to grab a Bible, and if these guys on this side could look at Martha, and these guys on this side could look at Moses, and together just read through the passage there and work through the questions on the screen. All right, folks, let's keep going, huh? All right, so we had two stories: the story of Martha, story of Moses. Moses' story was where he was. They've come out of Egypt, gone across the Red Sea, and they're in the wilderness at the moment. And he is basically acting like judge, lawyer, and jury. And he's listening to cases from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to sleep. So you got thousands of people lining up to see Moses to share their issues with him, and him giving a response. And of course, the gentleman over here were thinking, well, Moses essentially was all 5 things, right? All 5 consequences. Yeah. So with Martha, this is the story of Martha and her sister, and they're having a meal with Jesus. But Martha isn't eating with Jesus and the disciples and her sister. Martha is busy cleaning the house, getting everything ready, cooking the food, making sure everyone's comfortable, serving everybody, making sure everyone eats. And the whole time she's serving everyone, her sister is sitting there enjoying her relationship and her fellowship with Jesus. So if looks could kill, Martha killed Mary how many times during that meal because she kept looking over and Mary just sit there and go, I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. And Martha's like, that's enough about Jesus. Get over and help me. So the whole time, Mary's watching Jesus. Martha is complaining. And Martha, probably, you saw the same consequences? Did you see all of that? Same sort of stuff happen? Yeah? Yeah. So, and of course, some of us at some point in our lives have been a Moses or a Martha. Amen? Or you don't want to get into that, huh? All right, so the thing with overfunctioning is this. Overfunctioning imprisons you. Overfunctioning imprisons you. You find yourself trapped in overfunction. I like the way Bate described it. Bate was talking about how in a particular situation he was in, there became like a codependency that happened in the process. You get trapped in this codependent relationship between the overfunctioner and the underfunctioner. So what we want to do is we need to be able to do this. We need to be able to break free of overfunctioning. And you can break free of overfunctioning, but it is hard. The reason it's hard is because we have developed a pattern, a way of thinking, of behaving, of relating to others that's been in place for years that we've observed and caught by osmosis from our parents and our grandparents and our family of origin. So breaking free of overfunctioning can be like breaking free from your family of origin. But it is doable. So I want to give you 4 steps for breaking free from overfunctioning. And each step will take you deeper into spiritual maturity. Here's first thing. First, you've got to admit that you are overfunctioning. It's the first step in any recovery process is to admit. So, you have to admit to yourself that you are overfunctioning. How do you know you're overfunctioning? Well, for me, when I get up in the morning, so the night before, Charlotte declares to Micah and Jazzy, don't forget to do your snacks for lunch tomorrow. 7:30 in the morning, their dad is putting their snacks in their lunchbox. And the wife says, why are you putting snacks in their lunchbox? If they don't put the snacks in the lunchbox, they're not going to die if they don't have snacks during the day. And what does their father do? I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Overfunctioning. I'm overfunctioning in the process. All right, here's the second thing you got to do. I got to unleash the earthquake. After admitting you are overfunctioning, the next step is to disrupt the status quo, to disrupt the relationship, to disrupt the relational system. Disrupting the system is like unleashing an earthquake. It is going to knock everyone about and may even topple over long-standing structures in your relationship. The rules of the relationship are going to change when you choose to stop over-functioning. And when you're choosing not to do what you've always done for that someone who is able to do for themselves what they can do for themselves, that rocks the relationship. It is going to unleash the earthquake. What will the underfunctioner feel and what may they try to do when you stop overfunctioning? They're going to chuck a tantrum. Not only are they going to try to not only are they going to try chuck a tantrum, they're going to try and shift it back to what it was before. All right, so unleash the earthquake. Number 3, prepare for the chaos. Whenever you differentiate and give up your old ways of behaving and living, you can always expect a reaction from those closest to you, especially if they are the underfunctioner and you're the overfunctioner. Someone is going to do the wah and get very upset. So you can guarantee there will be chaos. There's going to be absolute chaos in the process. All right, so 1, admit you are overfunctioning. 2, unleash the earthquake. 3, prepare for the chaos. Lastly, stand firm. Expect resistance, expect pushback, but stand firm. Like one of like one of my very best friends would say, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. So you got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Allow people to work through the awkwardness and adjust to the new relational rules. Here is my suggestion. This is my suggestion. Here's a possible goal for you when it comes to quitting overfunctioning. The goal is for you to get to the point where you learn to love being dispensable. Did you hear that? To love being dispensable. Because an overfunctioner thinks of themselves as being indispensable. They're always going to need me. My kids are always going to need me to put snacks in their lunch boxes at 7:30 in the morning. So it's been about 2 years or more since Charlotte started playing volley. And she plays once, twice. There was a couple of weeks where she went to volleyball 3 days of the week. And then those early days, those early weeks, and those early months, they were very, very challenging for me. It absolutely disrupted our relationship. There was definitely an earthquake. Things were toppling over because I didn't want to do the work that was required of me to do in order to support my wife as she played volleyball once or twice or even 3 times a week. But the beauty of it was she continued to prepare for the chaos, and she did this one. For 2+ years, she stood firm. No, I'm playing volley. Good luck with the kids. 2 years straight, she stood firm on that. And I tell you what, it's been really good for our relationship. It's been good for her to get out, because she's a social butterfly. She's an extrovert. She gets energy from being around people. So she loves being in that space where she makes new friends, and she challenges herself, and she grows in that space. We've spent so much money on volleyball, but it's not about that. It's not about that. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. I'll be editing the video after this. When it comes to your relationship with you and God, are you an overfunctioner or an underfunctioner? Are you an underfunctioner? Does God do everything? What should I wear today, God? What shoe should I put on, God? Should I brush my teeth today, God? What should I have for dinner, God? Or are you an overfunctioner? God, it's all right. It's all right. I know there's like 7 other billion people in the world you look after. Don't worry. I got this. I got this. Don't you worry. I'll be God. It's okay. Are you the overfunctioner or the underfunctioner in your relationship? I want to invite you to reflect on a couple of questions, and then we'll pray. Yeah? 1, what challenged you? Secondly, are you an overfunction or underfunction in each of these areas? Work, family, and church. What steps can you take in each of these areas to change? I'll give you 5 minutes to have the conversation, maybe in pairs so that you can get through it a bit quicker, right? Can I encourage you to have this conversation with your spouse, for those of you who are married, and ask your spouse, how would they answer this question for you? Because I asked this question of my wife yesterday. Hun, do you think I'm an overfunctioner? I'm not going to tell you what she said. We'll leave it at that. All right? So it's a private conversation, okay? Please don't post your conversation on our church chat. There's no need for you to tell us on the church chat what your wife or husband said about whether you're overfunctioner or underfunctioner, right? But that'll be a really good conversation to have with your spouse. It'll open up the opportunity to think through how you can better support each other in your relationship. All right. So you've had enough sitting. Let's stand together, and I'll pray us out, and then we'll pack up and we'll head out to pick up our children.